So a mug can be any shape that you want it to be. It can be straight walled. It can fan out at the top. I'd be cautious about having it coming in at the top because it becomes very, very difficult to drink from. But other than that, it can be really any shape that you want. So I'm not going to do a mug demonstration. I'm just going to do a handle pulling demonstration and a handle application demonstration. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and grab any form. So we'll pretend this is my mug. And generally when I add a mug to the form, or add a handle to the mug, I'm going to start about an inch down the form, and I'm going to finish about an inch up from the bottom of the form. And I want to consider that I don't want to make it come off too far and look like a giant ear. I don't want it so small that I can't get my fingers into it. Usually, whatever the diameter is of the form, we look at the radius, so it would be about the halfway point, and that's how far the handle would extend from the form. Okay? So in the end, the handle ends up being 1/3 of the total space, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of switch my view here, I think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start pulling a handle. Now, I wedge this clay out first. So before you work and before you make a handle, you want to make sure to wedge your clay. And you want to use brand new clay, like the forbidden clay, the clay in the bags that only like the AP kids get. You want that clay for pulling a handle because you need it to be more consistent. If it's not consistent, it ends up breaking a lot on you when you're working through it. Okay? Okay, so we're going to get started. You need to work by the sink, and I would recommend that when you're ready to make a handle for a form, you spend a whole day just making handle over handle over handle over handle over handle, and allow yourself to fail a lot, because you can really wreck a form with a bad handle, or you can enhance a form with a really, really good handle. So we want to make sure that they're really, really good. Okay, so we want to make it into kind of like a big old potato shape after we've wedged it out, so I can hold on to the heavy end of the potato and pull down through the thinner end of the potato. We need a lot of water when we work, and when we pull down through this, you want to kind of start at the top and you want to snap down through it. And I want to rotate my hand. I want to pull down straight, but I also want to turn it. So if I'm just pulling in one direction all the time, it gets very, very flat on me. So I want to rotate my hand every once in a while just to keep the edges soft. Okay? So it's like milking a cow. Okay, you squeeze at the top and pull the milk down, right? Isn't that how you milk a cow? I've never milked a cow, but years ago when my first art teacher told me how to make handles, that's what he said. So I'm going to believe that that's true. Okay, so we're going to snap down through it. You want to make a handle that makes sense with your form. So if you have a tiny little mug, you don't want to have a real thick handle. You want to have a handle size that kind of makes sense with the size of that mug. Every once in a while, you're going to have to just kind of break a little bit off the end because the end doesn't end up being as smooth as the handle itself. We want to apply a handle at about trimming stage, okay? So either right after or right before. Now, if you do it right before, you have to let it set up a little bit. Otherwise, it ends up being bent from trimming. Can you tilt my screen just a little bit so that they can see better? Just a little bit towards me so that they can see. You're not actually moving at all. No, like bend it.
Oh, okay.
This way.
That.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So that way they can see a little bit more. All right, very good. Okay, so I'm pulling down through this. Now, generally what I recommend to kids is that you pull a handle at the beginning of the class period. You take a bat, break it off, push one end into the bat, and push the other end into the bat like this. So it's allowed to sit for the class period, and the air will dry it a little bit so that when you're ready to apply it to your form, it doesn't want to just sag on you, okay? So it's a little bit stronger and holds its shape a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and put mine on right away. Okay, so whenever we attach a handle or we attach clay to clay, we need to make sure that we scratch and apply slip. So if I'm pretending that this is my form, I want to take either a fork, because we do have some laying around, or a needle tool, and I want to scrape the form at about 1 inch to 1/2 inch from the top. I'm going to scrape the form about 1 inch to 1/2 inch from the bottom, and I want to make my lines relatively deep. Okay? The next step is to apply slip, and slip is just clay and water mixed together to be like a paste or like a glue consistency. If it's not like glue, if it's stiff, we need to add a little bit of water to it. Okay, so you don't want to apply it that way. But we'll go ahead, and I have a slip jar right here, which I think was a pickle jar at one point. And I want to take the slip, and I want to look at my markings that I applied to the work, and I want to pat the slip on. I don't want to brush it out because I'll destroy all of the markings that I made, the texture that I added. I want to pat the slip on, okay? And then while that slip is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and get a fettling knife, and I'm going to cut through the heavy end of my handle. I'm going to take that handle, and there are lots of different ways to apply handles. I'm going to show you the way that I think is easiest for kids. We're going to take that handle, and I'm going to press it into the form, and I want to have extra clay here. And I would probably take this and blend this in a little bit more than that, but I'll wait and do that. I want to have extra clay here, and I will look at my shape, and when that handle starts to feel right, when it starts to feel like it's 1/3 of the total space, I'm going to press it in and break it off on the bottom. And then all this extra clay that I have here and I have here, I would take a wet finger and I would blend that very carefully into my form. Okay? I might even leave a little bit of this shape down here at the bottom because I don't mind the way that that looks. I just don't want it all the way at the bottom if I haven't trimmed yet. And if I haven't trimmed yet, when I make my handle, I want to make sure that it doesn't sit past the rim of the work. So sometimes I'll even take it and I'll flip it upside down and I'll allow it to dry that way. So then when I start to trim, this can sit level. If the handle's sitting up higher than the work, when I start to trim, I'm going to turn this a little bit so you can see it better, it'll be balanced on its handle. So it doesn't work out very well. You want to make sure that that handle doesn't sit up higher than the rim of the work. Okay? Sorry, you guys can't see especially well, I don't think. But I think you understand what I'm trying to say. At this point, we're good with our mug. Okay? And that's all I have for you. Well, no, that's not all I have. I would like you guys to go ahead and watch that handle pulling video. She does it in a way that I think is much prettier. So if you like to do decorative things to your work, I think it'll be a good video for you. All right, that's all I got. See everybody tomorrow.